Have you ever gone in to take an exam, you feel pretty good about it, and then all of a sudden you are taking the exam and you are completely overwhelmed. And then you find out you did not do as well as you thought you did, or you completely bombed it. Hello and welcome to Learn with Jess. I am Jessica and I have had quite a bit of experience with overthinking, not using strategies and techniques on exams, and quite honestly, bombing a lot of them. The more this kept happening to me, I realized I probably have test anxiety. I ended up getting the opportunity to do an entire presentation about test anxiety, so I was able to learn a lot about it. And then when I did my graduate degree in mental health counseling, I realized that there are specific techniques and strategies and coping skills that could really help me overcome my test anxiety. So let's jump right into this. So before you go and take an exam, I highly encourage you that you study ahead of time. That way you are prepared going into it. So now you have studied for your exam and you are prepared. Leading up to the exam, before the exam even starts, you want to really work on how you think about taking the exam. So before you take an exam, if you already go into it thinking, I'm stupid, I'm not going to know this, I'm going to bomb it, likely that's going to lead up into your anxiety and you likely aren't going to do well. So before you take an exam, how are you thinking about taking that exam? I want you to think positive. I'm smart. I can do this. Write sticky notes. Put them on your mirror. Put them on your dresser. Put them anywhere you can see. This encourages positive thinking. That way, when you go in to take the exam and you do have anxiety, you at least have some type of technique being able to help you get through that, such as thinking, I am smart, I know this. So now, the day of the exam, how do we go about taking an exam? First, you want to be completely aware of your breathing. When we have anxiety, we often are not breathing correctly, so this restricts oxygen to our brain. So if you are going into the exam, you already feel anxious, give yourself a chance to really breathe. Nice inhale and exhale, right? I teach this so often in yoga, and it is extremely important. Anytime throughout the whole exam, you are feeling overwhelmed, look away, take some deep breaths, reset, and come back. Now, when I was in college through my bachelor's and graduate degree, multiple choice is extremely common in exams, and then you usually have a written response. So now let's jump into how do I go through my multiple choice questions. So you are going to read through all of the questions, and then you're going to answer the ones you know. The biggest thing you want to pay attention to is you are not overthinking your answers.
So many times,
I would think, oh, that's not right, and I would erase it. And every time it was always my original answer. So you are going to skip over the ones you do not know. Do not overthink, do not feel overwhelmed. You can come back to those later. So now you've completed all of the multiple choice that you know. You stuck with your first answer. You're going to go back to the ones you do not know. So you're going to reread through them. Sometimes while you're taking an exam, those questions will just click, and sometimes they won't. So let's say they don't click. You're going to actually read the multiple choices you have. You're going to cross out the ones that you know are not correct. You're going to actually read those again, and you're going to decide what would be the best option for this question. You're going to really take your best guess. You're going to try to find the most logical answer you can for those. So before this, I did do some research since I haven't looked into it, and you'll hear people say, oh, you should choose B if you don't know. All the research I found, this is 2022, C is still the best choice if you don't know for college. So for me, I would go with C. But do not just always make that your backup. Really make sure that you are crossing out the ones that are absolutely not correct, and you're going with the one that you just feel in your gut or has the most logical answer. Great, so now we're done with multiple choice. Let's move on to if you have short answer responses. This is where I really would shine. I am really great at explaining things. So I actually really like short answer responses, but a lot of people don't, and that's okay. So the first thing you are going to do, you are going to read through the directions of what it is asking of you. Then you are going to underline the actual parts it's asking you to write out. Is it asking you to compare? Is it asking you contrast? Is it asking for 5 sentences? Is it asking for an introduction? Is it asking for at least 3 examples? So you want to make sure you are including all parts of your short answer response. So you always want to restate the question in your introductory sentence. So let's pretend that you are comparing a plant cell to an animal cell. You are going to put in your introductory sentence, the difference between an animal cell and a plant cell is. Then it might ask you list 3 examples. The first example is that one has a cell wall and one does not. This makes a difference because that's my first example. Then I'm going to go ahead and put in a second example. The second example of the difference between the 2 cells is, okay, and you're going to list them. Then you are going to always make sure you still have a conclusion sentence for your short answer response. After looking at the examples and explaining them, we can see that there is quite a bit of difference between a plant cell and an animal cell, and that's it. Then I'm going to go back through the directions and make sure I included everything. Okay, it asked me to contrast and compare, and it asked for 3 examples, so I got all of those parts. Now, let's say you're reading your short answer response and you just have no idea where to start. I personally would go back through my multiple choice and read through some of that wording and read through those definitions. Sometimes using that vocabulary from the multiple choice can help us start creating ideas. Or another option, get a lined piece of paper and brainstorm how you are going to write this out. It does not hurt to write your rough draft on a lined piece of paper and then put it on your final exam. Not all professors are picky, but I did have some professors that were really picky about punctuation and spelling. So make sure you go back and you reread it. As a teacher, getting students to reread their work was the hardest part about writing. I promise you, the best thing you can do for yourself is go back and reread it. Sometimes I would even whisper read it out loud to myself because how it sounds in my head is so much different than how it sounds out loud. So you might want to go back through and reread your short answer response. Does it make sense? Do I have any spelling or punctuation errors? Did I include all elements? If you went through and you feel confident, then you are done. All right, you have finished your exam. What do? Go back and make sure you filled out all parts and pieces. You think this would be common sense, but I have done it. I have forgotten to fill out a question. And sometimes that can be the difference between an 89 and a 92. So make sure you go back and fill out all of the questions. Do not feel like you have to be the first one to turn it in. I actually didn't like to be the first one to turn it in. I really like to take my time, and then I turned it in when I felt confident with it. Is it okay if there are questions you don't know? Yes, that's okay. It happens. But do not let that one question deter how you feel about taking the exam. It's okay. Sometimes we forget things. Sometimes things don't click. Don't worry about it. You can miss one. That's okay. All right, so let's talk about quickly, if you have test anxiety, what truly are some skills and strategies you can use to help with that? One, for me, a lot of it was how I thought about taking the exam. Like I mentioned earlier in the video, I want to make sure that I'm having positive thoughts. And once I go in to take the exam, I'm using my breathing techniques if I'm feeling overwhelmed. I want to make sure I have oxygen to my brain. You also want to make sure you are prepared for that exam. Make sure you are studying and make sure you have used your study guide if you are given one. Those make a huge difference. Not always, but a lot of the times they do. And if all else fails and you get a really bad grade, all you can do is learn from it. Trust me, I have failed my fair share of tests. If you had watched my video, How to Get Straight A's, I do explain that I got test anxiety. So a lot of times I did not do well on tests. And so I tried to do my best on assignments, and that really helped me get better grades, is to make sure I at least got as many points on assignments as I could. So if you are struggling with test anxiety, know there are coping mechanisms you can use to help you when you take exams. Now, I will say that even towards the end of my graduate degree, I still get nervous before taking exam. I still have to use these coping mechanisms. I still have to work on my breathing. I still have to not overthink. I still have to check my responses. These are all things I still work on. I still review my short answer responses. I still go back and look over my tests. So these are things that you can do as well. In the comments, please let me know if this video was helpful, if there's anything else you would like me to touch on. I wanted to really just make this short and sweet because I know when we are in college, we are super busy and you do not have time to watch a 25-minute video. Well, I wish you much luck on your studies. And again, if you have not watched my habits and techniques of studying, please make sure you watch that video. It is extremely helpful. If you wanted to follow me on other platforms, I also have Instagram and TikTok, and I will list those below. I have lots of other videos that I don't have on this platform. Well, I hope you have a beautiful day. Bye.